Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. In today's card, I'm using a new product, to me at least, called Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. I have two flavors, lemon sorbet and pink peony. It's kind of a strange product. It doesn't move, it doesn't go anywhere. It's a little kind of not really greasy because it's water soluble, but it's not very pasty. You'll see as I use it. I'm also using this stencil. You can use any stencil. I don't know how easy this one is to find. I've had it forever, but there are plenty of other butterfly stencils that you can use. So here it is. You can see it doesn't move, and it kind of, I'm not sure how to compare it. It's almost like a creamier lipstick. Like a creamier gelato, I guess you could say. And I found that with a palette knife, it was a little bit too stiff. Using my fingers was the best result. And also I think the warmth of my finger just sort of softened it up a little bit, so you can see how it really just glides on there. I did not adhere to my stencil. I just kind of stuck it onto my cardstock, and it stays in place pretty well, at least this one in particular. But once you start applying this mousse, it kind of sticks the stencil to the cardstock. I'm just going to keep spreading this around until I get an even layer. So when you're applying it, it's not an exact science. You kind of have to keep moving it around because it is thick in some areas, thin in some areas. But as you work with it and as it gets warmer on your finger, it just really forms quite well. So when I remove this, you'll see how beautiful it is. It's glimmery, so it's got a really pretty shimmer to it. And as you can see, it looks fantastic on black cardstock. So I'm going to color or fill in 3 of these butterflies here. So I'm slowing it down every time I dip into this mousse so you can get a better feel for how the medium is. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit here. And when I picked this one off the cardstock, it kind of pulled a little bit of the mousse up with it. It's kind of hard to tell. I'll show it to you up close in just a second here. And then finally, this lemon sorbet. And actually, just so you know, I've used this quite a bit, which is why it looks like it's sort of got a big hole in the middle. I played around with it a lot when I first got it. So, and here is lemon sorbet. It is such a beautiful color. It's like a light gold. So I think if you were to get gold, it would be darker than this. And this is just a really bright gold color. So I highly recommend this lemon sorbet. I actually got it. It wasn't my first choice because the one that I wanted, I can't even remember what it was. It was out of stock, so I just went with this color. But I'm glad I did because I really like it. All right, so I'm going to smooth this over and then I'll pick it up and you can see how absolutely gorgeous this is. And I also did on some white cardstock. I did a couple of other cards that I'll show you at the end of the video. So here's the close-up of where the mousse came off a little bit, just at the center of the butterfly wings. And I decided it wasn't worth redoing, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. So I'm going to let that dry. It usually takes around, I want to say 15-20 minutes to dry. I pulled my sentiment from this Lawn Fawn birthday tag set. And I'm going to take, I usually don't do this, but I don't know, I just decided to do it this time. But I used my embossing buddy to remove any static cling so I wouldn't get any white embossing powder where it didn't belong. So I'm going to sprinkle some powder on there. I stamped it with Versamark first. And now I'm going to trim that out. I cut a piece of smoky slate cardstock 2 3/4 inches wide. And I'm going to adhere this to a Nina Solar White cardstock card base. And now I'm going to take my Copic liner. This is a 0.3 liner, and I'm not using a ruler. I'm going to hand draw these lines, and I'm going to make sure that I don't hit the gray, but I do want it to be curved a little bit so you can see them kind of going in and out a little bit. I'm going to make this a double line, and I'm going to have them cross over each other here and there, just sort of playing with it a little bit so that it looks kind of messy. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So the first lines I did were real time. This is in speed up motion. All right, and then I'm going to take my Gonzai Tombi black palette, and this is my favorite way to add splatter. So I'll take my brush and a jar of water, and I'm going to put not too much water because the more water you put, the bigger the droplets are going to be. And I always start small because you can always get bigger. So you can see I'm just barely tapping the surface of the water whenever I want more water, and that helps me control it a little bit more. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, I'm a little off camera here, so I'm sorry about that, but I'm just tapping it with one finger from pretty high up, maybe like 8 inches above the cardstock. And so you can see that I have these tiny dots, and then I decided I wanted them to be a little bit bigger. So to do that, I'm just going to add more water. And you can see I immediately got a couple of really big ones. I decided to stop there. So I'm going to lift this up so you can see it, and I'm actually going to add more splatters later because it turns out that this wasn't enough. I just wanted to get it on there before my butterflies because I didn't want the splatters on the butterflies. So I manually cut out these butterflies. I just made sure that there was a little bit of a black outline on the edge. And now I'm going to position them kind of starting at the bottom. I'm going to overlap them a little bit. So once I figure out where I want them to be, I'm going to take some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, which is just some foam adhesive, and put them on the back and adhere all 3 of these butterflies. You can see that I've already covered up that big black dot that I had. I really like the way the black outline on these butterflies really makes them stand out against this gray background. All right, once I have my butterflies down, I'm going to take my corner chomper. I'm using the 1/4 of an inch side. I'm going to round out the corners on the left side of my sentiment. I'll put some Scotch foam tape on it, and I'm going to place it about between the butterflies and the top of the card, just kind of even with the edge on the right hand side. All right, next I'm going to add some sequins. This is called Fairy Lights. I can't remember the name. I'll have a link. And it comes with tons of different really pretty pastel colors in different size circles and some stars. So I picked out 6 of them, 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom, and that took, I don't know, like 5 minutes for me to deliberate which ones I was going to use and where. And then I'm going to adhere them like I normally do, which is with my pick-me-up stick. So I pick it up with my left hand, and then I squirt some multi-medium, multi-matte medium, I always confuse that, and then put my sequin back down and use the other acrylic piece to kind of pull it off the sticky part. Everyone always asks me about the applicator tip on my glue, and to be honest, I have no idea what it is. Somebody gave it to me a really long time ago. All right, so here's where I decided I needed more black splatters. There just wasn't enough contrast. I thought about adding some black sequins, but decided I really didn't want to do that. So I took my black Stampin' Up! Marker. It has a pretty thick tip on the fine side, and you just have to make sure that your circles are round. So I don't know if you could tell when you first saw this card that I had drawn some of my splatters, but I made some thick ones, and then I decided to make some thin ones as well, just so I had kind of equal fake big and small ones so that it didn't look like it didn't match. So anyway, I'm just kind of adding them here and there, and I added one more big one at the top because I think it adds that really nice little pop of contrast by having the black splatters with the colorful sequins. And that is the card for today. So I really like these mousses. They're really cool. They're totally different, kind of like embossing paste, but a different texture. Here's another one I created with this stencil by Simon Says Stamp. I forgot to show you, so I just inserted a picture here. I just used the same pink, and I had these pieces of trim by Webster's Pages that I bought years and years ago, so I put that metal trim at the bottom. Once I put the mousse on that stencil, then I just cut it with a scissor in the circle. Here is the lemon sorbet on black cardstock with, here's some more trim that I added at the bottom directly onto that black piece. So I just cover the stencil on part of my black cardstock when I created that. Here is what the lemon sorbet looks like on white cardstock. It looks pretty neat. I didn't get a chance to make a card with that yet. But here are the stencils I used for that. These are layering stencils by Altenew, and this is the one that I used, and these little flaps kept coming up. So what I did was I sprayed my Easy Tack Krylon adhesive, spray adhesive, and so it makes it sticky and it really holds it down to your cardstock well. You can see how sticky it is, and it's been washed a couple of times. So anyway, I really had a fun time using this mousse. I just have these 2 colors, but I was able to create these really pretty cards. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.